Year 10s, it's important that we have a serious discussion about what is expected in order to receive this qualification, not just a pass, but a merit or a distinction. And it is not what you might be thinking. First of all, the worksheets are effective at taking the knowledge and moving it into your midterm memory. That's why we do them. That's the function of them. But they are not sufficient to get certainly a distinction or a merit. And that's why I put together the extension tasks. And I'm hoping that those of you who are already ahead in doing your worksheets, instead of continuing to move to the next worksheet and move further and further away from the class, that you would use the extensions to do a deep dive into the learning. And they will help you to get a merit or a distinction, not just a pass. So first of all, the worksheets are not admissible in any way for credit for the course. That changed last year. And there are now two requirements. 40% of your mark is on an exam, and I'll show you a sample of that in a moment. And 60% is on what's called a synoptic project, which is an individual project, not a team project, that requires you to pull together all of the learning from across the business course and add to it some analytical tools that you'll be provided with that you don't have to memorize to answer that project. What may surprise you is in very, very few cases in business, is there a right answer versus a wrong answer? There are just degrees of effectiveness and arguments that support those choices. And that's very, very similar to what you will see in the business exam. So let's go there first, because the project's going to be an even more extreme case. And let's take a look at why I've got these extension tasks and why I don't think the worksheets are enough to at least get you to distinction. So I'm going to share my screen, and we're going to take a look at the exam question, sample exam question. And this was actually once a real exam question. So I just want you to get a flavor for it. We're going to look at question 21, but first, let's go back to the right, wrong answers and see how much of the entire exam they make up. So I'm going all the way back to the very beginning, and there's a warm-up section in the exam that is multiple choice. There are usually 7 questions, and they're each worth just 1 mark. And I think one of them is actually 2 answers, so it's worth 2 marks. So there's 8 total marks out of 80 total marks that are these true, false, multiple choice type questions that you might be thinking will make up the entire exam. So they're very, very limited indeed. The bulk of the exam, worth way more points for even just 1 question than the multiple choice, is summarized in question 21, which we're going to take a look at. So question 21 is the highest number of points of any question on this particular exam. And I picked a question that is right on topic for what we're looking at now. So I thought this would be a particularly good one so that you understand what the balance is of knowledge that you must memorize and repeat versus the balance of knowledge that you must use. So the entire business course, all 3 years, is summarized in 36 pages of a revision guide. All of the information is there. And so it shouldn't be too hard to memorize the information that you need to know. It will be much easier if you do the worksheets and then you do the extension tasks. That will really cement that and allow you to avoid a lot of late night revision. But here is a classic example of the type of question. It's not so much for you to repeat what your understanding is of a particular business concept, but it is up to you to use that understanding in coming up with a defendable argument. And in each of these cases, there are not right and wrong answers. In fact, the higher the point value, very often, the less they rely on right and wrong answers, and the more you are asked to apply business concepts. So let's take a look at question 21. Using your knowledge of promotional methods, evaluate why a small business would prefer to use social media to promote their business rather than using local radio and local newspaper advertising. So you've got to understand the advantages and disadvantages of the internet and the advantages and disadvantages of radio and local newspaper. And then you have to be able to apply them into an answer. This is the highest point value question. It is 9 marks. So think about what we've just gone over in the previous lesson, and think about how much of it you could use to answer this question now in a way that would stand a good chance of getting you all 9 marks. I think that many of you will have to be honest and say that we need a bit more practice. So that is what the extension tasks do. What I'm focused on is providing you with some questions that don't have right and wrong answers, specifically don't, so that you have to make a value judgment or an assessment. And the reason why I do this is for this reason. To pass NCFE level 1, level 2 business, you have to be able to explain the business concepts. And in fact, if you just explained advantages and disadvantages of social media, of print advertising and radio advertising, you could probably get enough marks, probably about 5 marks, enough to pass. But you would need around 7 marks to get a merit and around 8 marks to be on track for a distinction answer. And there you would have to use those concepts and think on your feet. This is one of the reasons why I told my year 11s that I would prioritize rest over late night memorization, because in a business exam, you have to be able to think on your feet. And it helps if you have some practice at doing that, and that's what the extension tasks do. Now, the project, which is worth 60% of your mark, is a single multifaceted question. And it is a business challenge, and you have to come up with a response. And there are some guidelines as to how you respond, but there's no right or wrong response. There's just a well-defended response and an undefended response. And so I want you to be fully aware of that. And the extension tasks will help with both the exam, particularly the long form essay questions like this one, and the project. Okay, so let's take a look at the extension tasks, and we'll pick on some. First of all, how does this work? Well, as I say, there are no right and wrong answers. So I'm not going to tell you this is an A, this is a B, this is a C. We're going to have a business conversation about using the concepts in the business class. And so there's no worksheet to fill out for each of these. It's free form in a Word document or PowerPoint if you'd like, and prepare a response to the questions that I'm asking. So let's take again a question from one of our most similar topics, or one of the most recent topics rather, which is the fourth of the four P's, promotion. And there are two worksheets with promotion, 25 and 26. And each worksheet has 3 extension tasks. Now, if you can get all 3 done, that's what I would recommend. But if you can only get 1 done, pick one. If you don't like any of them, challenge me to come up with a 4th one. But please, please take these on, because you will find that they will make that exam so much easier. So I've got these examples. So there are 3 questions for 25 and 3 questions for 26. So I'm just going to pick on a couple of them. So worksheet 25, a service company, option 1 is a service company offers 2 different types of service. One is always performed online, the other is always performed in person. How does your advertising strategy differ between the products, and why? So you have to think, okay, if a service is always performed online, which advertising strategies does that favor, in your view? If it's always performed in person, which advertising strategies does that favor? How would you promote these products differently? So it's to try to get you to think about some of the factors that impact choices in advertising, in promotion. So the second example is one company offers products to the mass market, the broader market, and the other company offers products to a niche market, a specialized market. What are each company's top 3 advertising strategies, and why might they differ in their approach? So you have to think again, if you're appealing to just about everybody, what advertising strategies make sense? If you're appealing to a very select few, a niche market, which ones make sense? And again, come up with your own answer to that. Now, the third one is from a personal experience where I, frankly, made the wrong choice and learned from it. So the third example is a shop located in a tough part of town is reopening under new management, meaning you. It wasn't me, I was just temporary, I was transitioning the business. It has had massive theft issues, and its main clientele is street drinkers. It needs to increase profits, reduce theft, and appeal to a broader customer base. You must choose between 3 launch promotions: a £1.49 meal deal, a 3 for the price of 2 deal on upscale wine, or 25% off on your new line of Eastern European food. Which one of these do you choose, and why? Which one would be a huge mistake, and why? So you have to think through that, think through which promotion works, and then provide your own reasoning. So then 26, which is the other worksheet that we've just been working on. Coos Bay, Oregon, USA. Again, these are examples from my own personal work experience. Coos Bay, Oregon, USA is a high unemployment community due to the collapse of logging and fishing industries. Its workforce is older than most, with an average age of about 45. A large customer service center located there has used three recruiting strategies. I know because I ran that center. Um, a person wearing a sandwich board that displays both front and back on the main road in and out of town, local newspaper, and local radio. So those were the three options. The first one has the highest number of new hires and the lowest cost per hire. Why? So you have to kind of think through, why is that first one, which sounds like the least likely, doesn't it, when you hear about it? Why is that first one so effective, and why? You want to look at Coos Bay, look at what the weather's like there, and see if you can figure it out. And again, I don't absolutely know. I have some theories, but I don't absolutely know. So I'm not going to say one answer is better than another. I'm just interested in your ability to take an educated guess. So the second question is, which of the other advertising methods other than internet has lost the most business to internet advertising in the UK, and why? So you have to do some research. It's a short question. And depending as to what you find out, you have to form an opinion and answer why. Now, I'm sure there are some absolute figures, but I didn't see anything readily published out there. So this is going to have to be something that you have to give me your view on. So the third question I thought was very topical. Things are just returning to normal after a pandemic swept through the planet. Now, if I'd asked this question in early January, you would have said I'm nuts, but we live in strange times. You own a specialty clothing shop in Hastings and you need business fast. What three advertising methods do you use to get the word out that you are open for business? How do you tastefully use the pandemic to your advantage? Okay, so there's nothing to worry about with these questions. Some of them could take you 15 minutes, some of them could take you a couple of hours, but it's getting the practice of working with something other than black and white, right and wrong. Because in business, there are relatively few absolutes. I mean, there are ethical considerations that you don't violate if you don't want to go to prison. But other than that, there are a lot of judgments that have to be made. And that is what the business exam and the project test. Your ability to think on your feet and make judgments based on business concepts, not just simply repeating back the business concepts. So the way I like to put it is this. If you simply explain what something is, what the concept is, and you do it accurately every time, that will get you a pass in this class. If you explain what it is and how it works, that will get you a merit in this class. If you can explain what it is, how it works, and how well it works, if you can assess, then that is a distinction. And I want as many passes as we can get, level 2 passes. I want as many merits as we can get. And I want as many distinctions as we can get. And you have the time under the new class structure. I will get you to the point, year 10s, where you have an excellent chance next year of getting the best possible qualification. But you need to work with me on this. I've had only about 10 people in the entire cohort out of 90 send me any extension tasks at all. They are to show you where they are located. They are located on the student drive, under Fox, under Year 10, under Business, under Lessons, and you will see NCFE Business Extension Tasks. I've only got them up to worksheet 26 so far because I don't want people working the extension tasks ahead of the classes. That's what you should do if you still have time after the worksheets, because that is where you will really get the benefit. And those students, by the way, who did get 10 and 11 hours of sleep before the exam, I know that's a big ask for someone your age, but those that did get the rest necessary found the exam to be quite easy, much easier, frankly, than the mocks I gave. And that is the point, to really challenge you on the mocks so that the exam seems much easier. It's the same material as the mocks, but every time you practice, you get better. And a mock is simply practice. I do want to make an appeal as well. As we start with mocks, you'll have an exam coming up at the end of this year, all being well. I don't know for certain, but all being well. And then you will have 2 real world mocks in October and January. Even if you haven't studied for them at all, and you don't know the answer to question 1, those people that showed up and got the practice ended up doing far better on the actual exam where it counts. And it is time now to practice. Our minds are a muscle, they need to be exercised. The worksheets do it to an extent, but the extension tasks take you to where you need to be to get the best possible outcome for yourself. Thanks very, very much for your attention on this. I do hope that I see more extension tasks from you. If anyone wants to try to make a deal with me to maybe waive a worksheet in exchange for doing an extension task, I am more than open to that suggestion. Business is all about making deals, but I will try to make it a deal that will serve you well in your future. Thanks very much, and I will speak with you again soon.